Day, everyone. Today, as requested, I'm going to share my thoughts on enCore Energy, a tiny little US-based uranium company. Now, as this company is US-based, there's probably a big significance on whether you believe Section 232 is going to be implemented or not. I'm not going to, in this video, discuss if it morally should be implemented or if it should or shouldn't. If you want to discuss that in the comments, I'm more than willing to. I believe it would be dumb to implement, and on that basis, I'm not investing as if I think it will be implemented. So in clarity, I don't think it should be implemented. I'm not investing on the basis of it being implemented. Next thing I want to point out about this specific play is there's very limited information. Their last presentation was in 2015. They haven't updated their website in years. The news flow, there's barely anything happening. So much of this is me piecing together this person said that, this thinking that, this, whatever. So much of it is trying to come up with information that was not clearly stated. Now, based on all this, you might find this odd, but I am long enCore. I know I treat it as highly speculative. I only have a very small position in enCore. It has no economics with any of the projects, and their main resource, which is the one thing that you can look at and say, oh, there might be value there. It's far down the line, 2024 or later, 5 to 7 years is what I'm looking at there. And much of my reasoning is based on guesses and assumptions. So very cautious on this one. Now look, despite being long, I'll be the first to admit that the assets on this one are not super inspiring. They are a collection of low-grade little deposits here and there, with only one being worth talking about, really, and that being Crown Point, which is, in addition to being 5 to 7 years away, is only 26 to 32 million pounds, depending on what resource you look at. So it's not that big, not that worthy of writing home about. Also, I mean, they don't have much money, is my understanding. They probably won't be able to do much with what they have and will need to eventually finance. So with all that anti-hype, why do I have a position? Well, one, the price. If you look at this company, it's $10 million. So you have to look at, okay, what do you get for $10 million? And then I progress to the management team, which has been, by the way, completely right. I'll get to something later about management, but so yeah, you get all-star management in terms of the calls they've seemed to have made, and you get a 26 million pound deposit, and theoretically, if they could get some eventually in 5 to 7 years, have a margin of $20 per pound, then the profit would be $520 million theoretically, which is about 52 times the market cap in terms of profit and low costs setups for these ISR uranium plays. So management. Now they own 30 to 35% depending on the company, the insiders, that is, insiders management. And I remember hearing a story about a unpopular call that the CEO made in 2011 after Fukushima, shareholders saying it's game over for the next decade. Here we are, 8 years later. many managements, many companies have diluted their shareholders to oblivion. enCore has not. They've been right. And in being right, what have they done? Well, they've basically shut down all non-essential operations and have been preserving their assets, preserving their money, not diluting as much as possible. They have issued some shares, making some transitions or transactions along the way, but they haven't really materially diluted uh, their assets. One of the transactions that they have recently made has been the acquisition of a Metamin portfolio of assets and database. Now, I believe this is slightly misunderstood because if you look in terms of what the smart people are looking at, and they're saying, oh, they just bought a bunch of pounds, that'll never be economic because most of the portfolio that they bought, most of the pounds of uranium, are basically in unminable areas around the Grand Canyon. So the serious people are like, oh, that's stupid. They're trying to sell to people who are just buying pounds in the ground. And I think that's kind of misunderstood because if you look, they paid very little for the portfolio. And so the price of those assets that are unminable looks to be discounted from what they paid. And I think that what they were looking for was something else in the acquisition. What they got was, at least what the CEO seemed to be excited about in an interview, is information or the Metamin database on the Brachia pipes, which is where their big deposits that they're trying to develop are. So if they got the information about how to more effectively develop those deposits, that could also be a big plus. What else that they've been doing is, well, no, I'll call it praying. And I say that with the hopes that it makes me sound very skeptical, as I am. But they are trying to lobby the local governments to get the restrictions about mining the areas around the Grand Canyon relaxed. So if they're successful at repealing some of that public land ban on mining even a little bit, then all of a sudden they will have a lot of uranium, potentially enough to satisfy the 232 25% US production. Eventually, that is. And I mean, one reason that it might be partially plausible that they could do something is that if you look at ISR mining, it's more like oil drilling than the big open pit mining of some other commodities. Okay, so this has to be addressed. It looks like something happened with Till Capital. I don't know the specifics, but my understanding, based on seeing some accounts of what might have happened, is that Till Capital, which had invested in enCore Energy, had also invested in the CEO's other company, or provided a loan to the other company, which my understanding is defaulted on the loan, and then this probably caused some bad blood, which I believe to be the reasoning why enCore was able to issue shares at one price and part of that transaction buy back shares at another price at a lower price that Till Capital owned, like a big chunk of them. By so doing, get cash and reduce the share count. Um, Something must have happened in my view, because otherwise, why would Till Capital want to get out so badly that it would be selling shares in one chunk below the market price? Obviously, they could have a number of reasons, but this is just my understanding. Again, I don't know for certain. So what's next? Well, honestly, I don't know. I have a view about as the total assets of this company and what they might be worth or what that might get to. But really, that's not going to happen until A, uranium price looks more positive, and B, the company starts communicating with prospective investors or current investors in order to explain themselves better. Now, I think that I heard that they're supposed to do an update in 2019. I know they're supposed to fix up their website and refresh that in 2019, but so I'm waiting for that. I'm waiting for to see what they're going to say, what they're working on, if they have any new information. But until then, they've their management has done such a good job of not diluting the shareholders that this is one that I'm, even despite their positioning of not having much money, I'm more comfortable guessing on a positive outcome. So I quite honestly have no idea what some of their smaller assets might be worth, but I have heard the CEO talk about using them as nearer term cash flow if the price of uranium increases, and that they might use their relationship with Energy Fuels to use their White Mesa plant mill to generate some cash flow before bringing their main project online. I have no idea what that's going to look like, what capex is required to bring that online, or so on. But I would think, or at least with this management's track record of preserving their assets and their money, I would hope that this is not just a showcase to be, oh, we have cash flow and we can finance ourselves at higher. I would hope that it would be profitable. So if that could reduce the dilution on the path to bringing that main project online as the uranium price were to hypothetically creep higher, that's just a positive. Uh, but again, I don't know how to value this thing, which is why I'm not super hyper about buying it. It seems based on a number of assets and a number of factors that it's probably worth more than what the market is indicating to me, which is why I own it. Thanks for watching, everyone. I know I didn't really say too much about this name, especially compared to some that I have in the past. That's mainly because there's, in my view, at this moment, not that much to say. There's a bunch of guessing here and there at what might happen in a number of cases. And for that reason, my long position here is not recommended for everyone. Absolutely not, because this is me guessing, me assigning certain probabilities to certain outcomes that may or may not happen. And if everything goes the wrong way, then that asset, the 26 million pound thing, is not really enough to hold the value of a company in the longer term. So if I'm wrong, this thing's my investment's basically worthless at this point. But that being said, um, if you want to hear my thoughts about anything else, please feel free to let me know. And I look forward to your any comments about anything I said here.